Welcome back. Today we're going to go over how you can combine variables in Qualtrics and the different options you have for doing this. Now let's hop into the survey and take a look. Now the first way to combine variables is something we've already talked about in this video up here about scoring. If you haven't watched this video and you're interested in how to do scoring in Qualtrics, especially if you're trying to sum different values together in your survey, I highly suggest you check out this video as it goes over everything related to that. Now to recap, the place where you're going to find scoring in our platform is here in your survey options and here in scoring. Now for each question and each specific choice within the question, you can assign certain score values like 1, 2, 3, for example, 4, and 5. And then when someone goes through the survey, these choice values and answer values will be assigned to each of the questions, and at the end of the survey, you can add those different answer choice values or question values together and then get a total score. That's one way of combining variables, especially numerical ones in your survey, but it isn't the only way of combining these variables. Now let me go back to the survey builder. And the second way of doing this is in the data analysis tab. So in the data analysis tab, there's this option in the top right corner called the field editor. First, let me go back and then make sure those scores cleared out. Okay, didn't clear it. All right, so now we should be good. All right, as I was saying before, the second option we have is in the top right corner here called the field editor, and it's where we can set up a formula to calculate different combinations as it relates to certain questions in our survey. Let's first refresh so that this loading process can complete, and then we can go into the field editor and take a look. All right, it looks like it might take a little bit of time, so we're gonna put this on pause. And then once we go into the field editor, we can take a closer look at what this second option entails. All right, it looks like it's finished loading. Now let's hop into the field editor to go over the second way you can combine variables in Qualtrics. So in the field editor, what you're going to want to do if you want to combine numeric variables is you're going to click on this option called create a field, then formula, and then you can add the two variables you want to combine. Now in this case, I'm just going to add a simple total of whatever people selected in question 3 plus question 4. Something you have to keep in mind is when Qualtrics is adding these two values together, they're going to add the recode values of these two together to give a sum. So I'm going to call this sum 3 and 4. And we can talk a little bit more about the recode values and what that entails. So I'm going to head back in the survey here. And for 3 and 4, Qualtrics is going to add these values here for 3 to these values here for 4 and combine the variables in that way. Now for this particular response, for the one in here, I chose 5 for 3 and 5 for 4. So once this guy finishes loading, I should see one more variable added here in another column. I'm gonna add it right now, sum 3 and 4. And once this guy finishes loading, it should load with the value of 10. And then as we're waiting for that guy to load, we'll jump into the third way you can combine variables in Qualtrics. So there are cases when you want to combine variables that aren't numeric, and you can still combine them, but the combining process will look a little bit different, where you'll either pick one or the other of two questions, or you can combine them into one big text blob. In the exact same place we went to before in the data analysis tab, you'll see how we can go about doing this. All right, perfect, so this guy is finished loading. And you'll see here, as I mentioned earlier, since I chose 5 for 4 and 5 for 3, Once I sum them together using that formula I created in the field editor, it sums to 10, exactly what we expected. And heading back into the field editor, for questions 5 and 6, if I want to combine them, so in this, question 6, I'm going to call this combine 5 and 6. Now in this case, when I'm going to combine them here, I have two options. Either I can concatenate them, where I merge the answer for 5 to the answer for question 6 in one big text blob with this line as the delimiter that separates question 5 from question 6. We'll take a look at exactly what that looks like in the data analysis tab. Or I could coalesce them where one or the other of question 5 and question 6 is shown. So either question 5 or question 6 will be shown based on whichever one is filled in first. Now in this case, I'm just going to concatenate them so I can add the value from question 5 to question 6 and just have them all in one place. This oftentimes is really useful for text analysis of an entire survey as a whole, where you're going to combine all the different open-ended prompts someone submitted into one big text blob so you can analyze just that big text blob at once. That is usually a situation where someone does use concatenate instead of coalescing. In the case when someone does use coalescing, this is often used when someone either falls into category A or category B. And since those two are mutually exclusive, you can combine them in one column into a category A or B and then have it default to one or the other based on what they select. Since I'm going to concatenate these guys, chose concatenate, have my delimiter, then I can just create the field as normal, review and publish, and I'll be good to go. All right, awesome. So while this guy is loading, we can go into the third way we can combine variables. So let's head back in the survey and take a look at one more thing. Now, with the survey, or with a specific question type, usually multiple choice, these guys can fall into bigger categories than the options provided. So for example, in question 2, there's red, blue, green, and yellow. There's a way I can combine them into two different buckets, where there's a first bucket for warm colors, red and yellow, and a second bucket for cool colors, blue and green. Qualtrics allows you to do bucketing as a way of combining variables in the data analysis tab, so you can analyze data that way. Let's head into data analysis to take a look at that. So it looks like this guy's still loading. Once again, I'm going to put this on pause for like a few seconds. And once this does finish, we'll first take a look at the combined value. First, let me add 6 in here so we can see what that looks like. Oh, perfect. Finished loading. So first, we're going to take a look at the combined value for 5 and 6. And you'll see here, it has the answer for 5, the delimiter of that line, then the answer for 6. Now, if we're looking at bucketing as a way to combine things, we're going to go once again to the field editor, create a field, in this case, bucketing, and then we're going to select our field, question 2, and we're going to create our two groups. The first group I want to create is warm, and the second group I want to create is cool. Going to drag blue and green into cool, red and yellow into warm. And then once again, I'm going to review and publish, and I'll be good to go. Now, this bucketing is really useful when you have something like demographic groups and age bands that fall within specific demographic groups. And then you can bucket the ages people enter into specific buckets so that you can analyze a group as a whole later on. And once this guy loads, we'll see that for question 2, we should have one more variable which will say warm. But first, let me make sure combine 5 and 6 pulled in perfectly, and then colors pulled in perfectly. Perfect. And then we can see warm in there for red, exactly what we wanted. Now to recap, the ways you can combine things in Qualtrics are the following. So the first way you have is with scoring in here, where if you want to combine things numerically, you can set a score as we talked about in a previous video. Please feel free to watch that if you do want to do something related to scoring. And then at the end of your survey, Qualtrics will automatically sum the scores together and you'll be good to go. The second way you can do it is in the data analysis when you create new fields with either a formula where you can just add the numeric recode values of the different questions together and then get a sum or some sort of calculation involving those two questions. Or you can use bucketing where you choose options, put them into different categories, or you can combine text answers with either concatenating them where you just mush them together in the same text box, or coalescing them where it chooses one or the other of the two different text options. Hope that clarifies things. If you guys have any additional questions or concerns or anything else you want to go over, please feel free to reach out in the comment section below. Always have to clarify anything or go over anything further. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in the next video. Take care.